I can't tell if we're doing audio or not.
No, we're not doing audio.
Yep.
Classic.
We're so on.
And try this again.
Should have poured myself a whiskey.
Hello, and went through that thing again. Where a panel of archaeologists discuss the world of archaeology within the world of RPG, pop culture, and so forth and so on. Presented by the Archeo RPG Collective. I am your host, Bill, and today in our panel we have Tom, who is visible, and Amma, who is invisible. Woo! And Sarah, who is just not present at all. Sorry, she was not able to make it tonight. She sends her love, and will hopefully be here next time. So today, we find ourselves once again at the confluence of role-playing games, popular culture, and archaeology. I'm going to talk more about other cultural phenomena which are taking place inside of Animal Crossing, such as weddings. We'll get into that in more detail, plus sort of other virtual worlds which have set this precedent, and we'll just sort of have a discussion in general about performative or doing cultural stuff inside. I forgot we gotta make we're general audience. We're general audience here. Doing cultural things like weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs within inside virtual worlds. Then we're going to Doom. And why am I dropping frames? Has been living in the world of Doom for the past week, which means he's been living in the 90s. He's not even up to the 2000s yet.
No. I have beat 2 of the games so far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, both one that came out in 93 and one that came out in 94.
No, the 93 and 2016 so far. Also, me and Amma are echoing like mad on the stream.
Oh, the spiritual reboot, the soft reboot. Self-titled Doom.
Potentially a direct sequel of the original 2. We'll see.
Ooh, teaser. We'll have to wait for that to come up.
Yeah.
I am also disappointed you're not dressed up like Doom Guy, but you know, not all of us commit to the part. And our final topic for today, we are once again climbing on to go into the world of Wild Mountain. Yes, that's fine. That makes you sound productive.
I will type quieter, I promise.
Okay. Let me see if I can add you real quick before moving on, because I realize I have the first topic, and I'm also the one trying to get you into the screen.
We're talking Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I've got my Twitch right beside me, and I thought it would be worthwhile to play while you talk. I'm just kidding.
Well, if you're gonna,
I'm in Tom.
If you could put it on the screen, that'd be worthwhile.
If I had one of those. Yeah. Did you know that Tom Nook is supposed to be a play on Tanuki?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
It all comes together now.
There's some parts missing.
Well, I mean, he is clothed, so.
They are. I mean, all the sculptures I've seen, they are. Just, you know.
Is he Donald Ducking?
Oh, but they all Donald Duck. No, I guess not all of them.
No, Timmy and Tommy have little,
Does Tom Nook wear pants?
aprons, and Tom Nook, I believe, does he wear pants? Now you've got me questioning all this. What is it, the Mandela effect?
Oh, no, he does have pants. Sometimes. Some of the versions he has pants.
I think it's actually Blathers that does not wear pants.
Blathers doesn't wear clothes, but his, like, chest is a sweater vest. No, Tom Nook does wear pants. I was wrong.
Okay, we're learning stuff.
What about the game? Sorry. This is about we're getting off topic. Let's talk about weddings and stuff.
Well, I was doing
big giant Alma on the screen.
What?
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 Oh, he's still playing around with the.
See there, you guys
with the
stalled long
settings,
enough.
right?
No, what we're talking about, I was reading, I think it was Kotaku.
There we go.
everybody had this one shape or form. There was a couple, I believe, out of the UK. They're like a lot of people right now with the worldwide pandemic going on. Things like weddings are being postponed and delayed and so forth. But they really wanted to get their wedding, but they didn't want to have their friends and family risk their health in order to do this. So they staged the wedding inside of Animal Crossing. And then it mentioned some of the other sort of like gatherings people are doing together, or just people just getting together in general. They're meeting each other in Animal Crossing. So
No, that's.
Does that seem to be?
Okay.
Go.
All right. So I like this. I think Twitch and specifically Animal Crossing kind of just like really lucked out on when they got released. And even like so I was on a travel project but or whatever. And socializing that way. And I think this is becoming not quite the new normal, but it's definitely it's becoming a decent surrogate for the time being, I guess, if that makes sense.
I think it does. One of the things that I thought was really quite on the nose was a point was made that this is a lot about controlling something in a world that seems a little bit out of everybody's control at the moment. So I think that's why we have that kind of sense of an avatar, but also a sense of why people are attracted to the game at the moment. You know, we can build a world with a little bit of debt, but it's manageable debt, you know, and we can interact with others without having to interact with others.
Mm-hmm. As you all are playing.
I think that,
yeah. Oh, no,
well, I always think it's interesting too, these games, you know, for what it's worth, you'll get games that are made in Japan and brought over to the US and other Western countries, and they are interpreted as one thing, but they may be played completely differently over here as well too. Unfortunately, I haven't been following too many trends in Japan for what is called, I believe, Dobutsu no Mori. And although I have seen it gain a lot of traction, there's a popular YouTuber I follow who was promoting the heck out of it recently. So I'm assuming it's doing well for itself over here too, but that's something I can look into for a future podcast.
Yeah, we gotta see if it's universal that everyone thinks that Tom Nook is an evil landlord and a scumbag capitalist.
I did look, and he doesn't wear pants or clothes for that matter. In the GameCube version, it's just an apron.
Shame on though.
Clothes now.
You know, him being a landlord and
yeah.
Is the worst offense on there, okay? You know, his kink.
For sure.
We're not kink shaming him. Do your thing.
Well, we were talking about Donald Ducking earlier.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It's something completely different.
So
he's nooking? I don't even know what to call that.
He's doing his own thing. So what caught my attention with all this was, though, this is not new, especially in the world of video games. There have been weddings and funerals in games such as World of Warcraft. Second Life is all about this kind of stuff. That's pretty much the existence of Second Life during this time. So for those of you watching at home right now, live, it's getting a lot of lag on here. I don't know if that's the internet or our connection here. This is a reminder that we will be leaving this on. This will be uploaded later with a full track, so that that'll not include any of the lag, hopefully, and any of the missing parts. So apologize for that on there. But yeah, I mean, I remember going into World of Warcraft. There was a young boy who liked to play the game, and he had childhood cancer. And as part of like a Make-A-Wish thing, they made like a memorial for him in game. You can actually go in the game and find a spot where there's a memorial for him. And I think even a character afterwards was named after him. Create bonds. So you have celebrations, you have mournings, you do the things that communities do to keep them tied together, but you do that within like virtual spaces. So you guys haven't bumped into any of that during your game playing? Of anything?
I don't play anything online. I'm socially distant. I don't social distance.
So the world came to you right now. You didn't.
Yes.
You didn't change it to the world.
No. No. Was that the same person that there was like a memorial ceremony also in game? Or am I
that might have been different. The game's been around long
else?
enough. Unfortunately, there's been a few deaths. I mean, it's like World of Warcraft is over 15 years old.
Yep.
All the precursors
Mm-hmm.
who have been doing the exact same thing, and you know, you're right, they have been.
So, have any of us? I have not. Have either of you played Second Life?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
I've seen gameplay, but I have not.
Yes, I'm old, so I played Second Life. Not a lot of it. I wasn't into the Second Life scene. I more poked my nose in every once in a while to see what was going on in there. So it was a weird place. It was definitely one of those things ahead of its time. Picture Minecraft without building stuff as much, and a lot more virtual sex. Like they were kink dungeons in Second Life.
Sounds like early 2000s internet.
Yeah, early 2000s internet. It was definitely edge.
Not necessarily caused by the gameplay, but I think that will impact the gameplay from this current situation. I think there's going to be a lot more distance, like social relationships, than there have been in the past, because people are turning to that for their social fix. I guess. Does that make sense? And it also makes sense a lot. We're seeing this. Oh, that was the other one. There was a fashion show also that it was some public domain or something. They were all. It was a similar situation. Animal Crossing got together fashion show.
That was the one I posted.
Yeah.
Which, that was done by a YouTuber whose name we can always drop in the show notes because I don't know off the top of my head here. But he and a bunch of friends got together, and the wand feature allows you to change outfits. So they crafted an entire runway, invited all his friends over, played music, and had a whole show. And I think, talking about communities, the great thing about that post is showing
you can create separate scenes. Going into these spaces and creating their worlds. The data is still the private corporations, and the length of that server and the saving of that data is also belongs to that corporation. So, like, what's the level of ownership that someone is putting so much commerce reasons? I don't think this is a question that's been taken too seriously, because I don't think companies want to know the answer to that question.
I don't know. I think communities are fluid at the same time, because I'm trying to come at this with my own perspective, which is adjacent. I've worked in collapsed one way or another forums. So while I want to say of communication, if that makes sense.
No. I can see what you're saying there. Is much like another analogous way to put it would be much like communities in life, from schools to work, from one workplace to another workplace. There may be old people who don't make the trip over. You see what I mean? In terms of like
Yeah, no.
the community hop, be involved in those. I always get.
I am interested also to see how this will then transfer back to like our physical reality. Because we see that in games like World of Warcraft or EverQuest or whatever, where there are people who they make a living off of just like power leveling characters and then selling them, or earning gold and selling that for real money. And it will be interesting to see how that might translate to things that are, I guess, cultural currency. So things like fashion shows and how do you what is the concrete evidence of sure there is that they record it? How do you do wedding photos? Do you do any what kind of transitions do you go over? I know for
what is a wedding more than the issuing of a license? Isn't the rest of it performative?
I mean it is, but it is also there is
you're talking about memory.
Yeah.
Right.
I get me. Maybe.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's the idea of, do you need something physical left behind as a testament to that, or can memory alone stand in its place as a means of legitimizing it?
Or being satisfying, I suppose, also. Yeah. Like, are they, when this is under control again, are we going to start transferring to doing this type of thing because it's easier and cheaper and more controllable and has fewer radical variables, I guess. Not radical, that's not the right word for that, but unpredictable variables.
So you're saying that after this is done, we're not going to have 10 different video conference meetings per day?
I mean, we might. I don't know. We're seeing real impacts to the environment, even just from the lack of commuting. Now, some of that is definitely not going to stick because some of that is, hopefully, businesses are going to open back up so people can have work again. Because not all of us can telecommute. I am lucky enough to be able to do that for most of my job, but a big chunk of my job. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple weeks, but I'm not back out in the field next week. So it will be interesting to see how we transfer back and forth from virtual society, virtual social interactions, I guess is probably a better word, from virtual social interactions back to real life social interactions, and how that is going to change going forward. Like, are we still going to shake hands? Are people going to hug anymore? Or our talking distances, I'm sure, are going to change, because that's a simple thing. I don't know what's going to happen.
I would almost, as a counterpoint to that, I've been seeing a lot of really great memes where it's like people after quarantine is canceled and it shows like a bunch of people making out, basically. So I think there's some people that are anticipating the opposite of that, where you're so starved for touch, for human contact, that it's going to you're going to see a surge.
We're gonna have another, I guess, baby boom after.
Right, there'll be the baby boom when the quarantine went first into effect, and there'll be the baby boom that occurs after, when it ends. For two different groups.
The ones who
are together, that's the first boom. The ones who are separated from each other right now, that'll be the second boom. I'm explaining too much. Anyway, that sounds like
right.
A more serious topic for a more serious show.
That's not our thing.
How did we get off Animal Crossing? I still want
No,
to talk
actually,
about
in some
Animal
ways
Crossing.
it's not. In some ways, I mean, there is crossover into the sort of the rise of this virtual stuff. At least the rise in news media covering it, I should say, is because of the pandemic at this time.
Sure.
I don't think it itself is rising, but one last note before we leave, just to make you think that Tom Nook is even more of a scumbag. You know that the sort of like customized clothing that's occurring in Animal Crossing, people are selling them for real money.
See?
There is active capitalism going on. I saw someone trying to sell an outfit for $20.
Is that worth it? Like, would you buy that?
Pixels?
Okay. Are they selling the code, or are they selling like an? Oh, okay, they're not selling the physical object made to look like it.
No, they're selling the code.
Okay. That was something I wanted to talk about, because I think the code sharing is kind of the complete opposite of that. I've seen a lot of people spend hours redesigning the entire Mighty Nines outfits and sharing their codes. So you've got, you also got in
Animal Crossing?
Yeah. I can get you links.
Yep.
Really well done. Just really well done.
I almost got a side business starting next week. We're not, just happens to be designing clothes for Animal Crossing. Only $10 each.
If I make it, I'm sharing it.
So, about not that happy news now. Now it's time to talk about Doom.
Yay!
Because guess what came out on the same day as Animal Crossing? Doom Eternal. I have not been able to play that one myself, but I've seen some of the crossover art. It is fantastic. There was a short video that I posted the other day, because so Bill found a GIF of the Doomslayer with Isabel.
Yes, I've seen that crossover.
Yeah. But I want to see if I can actually find the video real quick. But this one. Nope, not that one. This one. There was somebody actually, like, that is a GIF pulled from an actual video, by the dashing Dr. K at TDDK_art on Twitter. It's awesome. It's just so good. That's all I have to say about it. Anyway, moving forward. So we were talking about code sharing and things like that. And Doom, the original Doom, the 1993, one of the first mass market first person shooters to be created, the arrow key and WASD combination is now an engine. So I don't know how much code I should pay attention to for person shooters and fighting games. So Doom itself, there is a Doom engine, like there's a Quake engine, and there's an Unreal Tournament engine, and all this stuff. There is a whole. Oh, I dropped a back. There's a whole community called Doom World, which does every year they do the Caco Awards. So one of the monsters in Doom is the Caco Demon, CACO Demon. And they do the Caco Awards, which is it's people reskinning and using the Doom engine to create new levels and new games and new worlds through that. And I thought that was pretty interesting to see Doom itself as a digital artifact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So have either of you played Doom? Bill, I know I'd be surprised if you hadn't.
Well, all takes place in a computer lab on the University of Maryland in 1992, because Maya don't have a PC that can run at the time. I got a shareware copy of it, having previously 2 years prior in 1991 been playing Wolfenstein 3D, also by id Software, where it makes this the spiritual successor to that game is Doom. But yeah, I might have played it. I might have played it once or twice.
Once or twice. So I went into I actually found a video on this, and there are several apparently videos on this on the Doom timeline. Do we want to get into this, because it can get real complicated?
Let's save that for now. Let's talk a little bit about your experience when you're revisiting the world of Doom.
So I'm going to say one thing about that, and that is that the creators of Doom, including John Romero, one of the main writers, claim that Castlevania 3D is actually in the same universe as Doom. I don't know what that means. I have not done any research on it, but I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, I mean, where did the mech Nazis by the end of the mech Hitler by the end of the game get that technology from?
Clearly, hell.
And if you've
or
been
maybe time traveler UAC.
Spoilers: if you've been playing any of the current Wolfenstein games, there is definitely a closer tie to the occult and hell in those games. So
I haven't played any of those.
I don't think I've been. Oh, they're wonderful, wonderful.
I need to get into Castlevania, I guess.
There were few joys as good as running around after a hard day at work, coming home, and shooting Nazis. It's just That's why these games work. You're shooting Nazis or you're shooting demons. What's wrong with that? There's nothing.
Just full on bad guys. There's no, they're not complicated. They're just pure evil.
Right.
You don't have to feel bad about turning them to blood balloons and just exploding.
Oh, come on, no.
That's what it looks like. Have you never played Doom? No, you haven't.
No. If we're talking early 90s, I believe I was not allowed to play that game. So.
I wasn't allowed to, but I definitely did. My buddy had it on his computer, and we would sneak into his basement and play Doom sometimes when I was like 6.
Now, speaking of sneaking and doing stuff, one of the cool things about the first Doom were the mods. You could reskin like the levels, and people got really insane,
so that's what
insane and crazy with that.
Yeah. So that's what I was talking about, the Doom World and the Kako Awards. They have awards still. Oh wow. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can actually pull it up real quick. Just go to the link. There. They've been doing that for 2004. They've had a Kako Awards every year, where they actually give out awards on the best mods to Doom, which is fantastic. And we can put a link to that in the show notes if you want. But the 2019 one, there's RPG looking versions of this, and they're some of it is going real hard into the they're these lush green landscapes and monumental architecture that people have built into the Doom landscape with mods. Some of them lead way hard into the the hellscape motifs, and they're awesome. They're very extremely creative, and they're really cool looking. And it's kind of cool to see that, now almost we're coming up on 30 years later, they're still this is still a major part of the game experience and the world surrounding Doom. And kind of to go back about what Bill was saying for just the catharsis of playing a first-person shooter. This is awesome. I think I said this someplace before, but my mental health strategy for this very stressful time has been to, I telecommute during the day when I can, and then I come home and I explode demons for an hour or two, and then I just try to spend time with my wife until I go to sleep. But that catharsis of, it is that sense of control that we were kind of talking about with Animal Crossing, where you have that ability. All right, I know what the parameters are here. I'm not going to be, well, there are surprises because it's Doom. But I know what kind of surprises to expect, and I have the control to do something about this, this level. I have a puzzle I can do. I can fix it. I can do a thing to it, and I know what the expected outcome is going to be. And it's been a blast. I played through the Ultimate Doom, although only the original level so far. I have not gotten to the other chapters yet. And then I just finished the 2016 Doom this afternoon. And there are actually artifacts from the original games in the new Doom, if we want to talk about Doom and archaeology for a sec.
Sure.
So, sure.
Sure, we're an archaeology channel. Why not talk a little?
Yeah.
We'll get some archaeology in here someplace.
I guess we can do that. So there is this kind of aspect that got introduced in Doom 3, where it's like there are archaeologists working with the miners harvesting the hell energy, and they are digging too deep and they release an ancient evil, and that's basically what everything happens. But there are one of the artifacts that you get shown at a certain point in the thing is literally like the original Doom cover art title screen, just on this like vellum page describing, and it's like a prophecy of the Doom Slayer or whatever, which is kind of cool to see. The other actually in-game artifact that you get is there are classic levels like hidden in each level that you have to, like, that is part of the game to get. You have to find them. And then once you find them, you can just play the original Doom with the new Doom Slayer and the new monsters in the original level. So it's it's kind of weird. So it's the Doom engine FPS, like we were talking about with the Cackle Awards, the mods, but it's the original levels, and then it's like the current Doom Slayer skins and monster skins on the monsters. So it's this weird 2D, 3D mashed together,
so
kind of fun.
It's a simulacra of the original Doom. You're creating a simulation, but
you're actually playing those original levels,
right? But they're not the original levels because it's actually in 3D, and you're using the modern engine with the modern guns, and the modern equipment.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're still playing the original levels.
Yes. So it's fun though. I've been enjoying it. But yeah. So I'm going to be working my way through these games for a while here, and I want to kind of think. I need some research questions about Doom and what it is and how it works, and I guess what cultural artifacts and touchstones can I pull from this gameplay.
Okay. Well.
So do you guys have any ideas?
Some of the things that always made me think of Doom is that Doom is the precursor of sort of the male power fantasy first-person shooter, which is nowadays Call of Duties. It's your Overwatches. It's still Doom Eternal going on there as we're talking about it. It's a cut and dry, clear as day, right and wrong. You get to play the white knight good guy with no moral qualms, who gets to go out and shoot all the bad guys who there's no question about their evilness in this. You have
They are literally demons.
They are literally demons, or they're literally Nazis. And for any of those who don't understand, and bringing up the idea of modifications of, and you know, this is very important in 90s computer culture into the 2000s, of the idea of a software is released to the public, but once it's in the hands of the public then has the right and the opportunity to make modifications to that software to either improve it or to have that software do things that they weren't originally planning on doing. Nowadays, software companies are more pushing the line that you are strictly licensing a piece of software. You are just borrowing their software for a certain period of time, and that software can be taken from you. You don't own your software in the same way that we don't own our movies anymore, and you don't own your music anymore. They come from streaming services, or they're digitally bought.
I mean, some people still buy the stuff.
But what are you buying? You're buying a license still. That's what all those words nobody pays attention to in the front of those things are. So you have the modding community, which is sort of important. It also, through personalities like John Romero, creates the independent, small company, digital company, the game developer, as sort of the new rock star of the 90s, which leads right in, which is able to ride along with the tech boom of the 90s. So where if you look at 80s video games, no one's touting the creators or the developers, and even into the even into the 90s, there is only one superstar out of Nintendo, Miyamoto. That's it. Other than that, you're not hearing anybody.
To be fair, though, Romero kind of like solidified his legend by putting a self-insert into Doom 2. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Oh yeah, no, he is a self-promoter as hell. I mean, he self-promotes himself into that place. It's not organic.
Yeah, well, I mean, so for those of you that don't know, it's not hard to find if you go look, and if you just like Google Doom Easter eggs, Romero's head is one of them, and there's like one of the secret rooms in one of the levels in Doom 2 is like it's his head on a pike that he like put into the thing. So it's literally his face in the game.
But I mean, so it, you know, Doom is very groundbreaking. Like Wolfenstein was innovative, and it broke all sorts of barriers and records. But Doom is the big hit. You know, Doom was, you know, trying to get my references straight here. Wolfenstein is more of your Mother Love Bone, where Doom is Nirvana. I'm talking to children here who don't know their grunge.
I know. I got Nirvana. I understand that part, but I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that Mother Love Bone was a grunge band.
It was a grunge band. The lead singer died of a heroin overdose before the first album ever came out, and it was about a year before Nirvana put their Nevermind out. But they're definitely.
I mean, that would make sense. I would never heard of it. It is one album.
And the breakup of this band is what actually leads to the known rousters for Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, because the band breaks apart and members of those bands end up in what becomes Pearl Jam and Soundgarden.
Oh.
That's right. We all come here to learn.
Oh my gosh.
Digging up grunge past. Let's all put some plaid on, play some Doom.
I'm having some flashbacks.
I didn't bring any plaid with me today.
It's not on my chair anymore. How to wash it?
Yeah. So I guess should I be looking at a Doom in its impact, or should I be? So I guess I want a good question for the impact of Doom, which I think we talked a little bit about there, where it is this idealized right and wrong situation and a form of hyper violent catharsis that has been kind of perpetuated through the FPS community, I guess.
Well, there
And
is no FPS community before Doom.
no,
That's
yeah,
another way to
so
think about it is, it's one of the things that makes the FPS community.
yes, so yeah, because it is part of that first generation of mass market first person shooters.
I mean,
And
there is no multiplayer shooters until Quake comes out, and Quake
yeah,
doesn't come out without Doom.
right. Um, so well, then there goes my real world situation. I guess I know. I guess what the question I want to ask is more of what is that lasting effect? So what effect is that looking like today? And is it still a direct effect, or is it something that has evolved to the point where it's no longer even recognizable as a influence from Doom anymore?
Well, I would probably, the question you would do is compare and contrast between Doom 93 and Doom 2016, the sort of soft reboot / direct sequel.
How would you do that?
Thematically,
How?
where are they the same and where are they different?
I feel like that's almost too simple a question because it's just a checklist at this point.
No, it would be
Because it's
what kind of questions is it asking of the people of the time they're playing it? Who are they targeting this for? Who in 1993 were they expecting to be playing Doom? Who in 2020? Who was this small Texas game developer expecting to be playing Doom in 1993? And whom is this giant corporation, Bethesda, who owns id, expecting to be playing Doom in 2016? There are different expectations. There are different monetizations going on in those games. There are devices in those games that are made to hit certain corporate ideals.
cheat codes. I still got to figure out cheat codes for the new one. So that was a major part of the gameplay for Doom, was the cheat codes, because of the way that games in the 90s worked. There wasn't always like, if there was no checkpoints in the Doom games. If you died, you lost all of your weapons, you lost all of the keys, you lost any armor or other buffs that you had collected throughout gameplay. So there's like a handful of cheat codes that all start with ID. That there isn't even a console. You literally just type them onto the keyboard while you're playing, and all of your guns show back up, all of your ammo shows back up. And I haven't figured that out for the new Doom yet. I just finished my first playthrough, so that's gonna be some of the stuff I'm gonna be playing with moving forward. I need to go back also through the first Doom and find all the secrets. I'm going back and doing the same thing in the new Doom as well. Each level has X amount of secrets, and you're supposed to find them to get all the collectible bits in the game. And that is one of the things I am looking forward to, is the scope and type of collectibles within the game.
Now, from a game creation standpoint, I think that's really great, because I mean that makes playability, like, it extends it and kind of really amplifies it as well too. So I find it interesting that from a creation standpoint, it's advantageous to build upon all that as well.
So the having the secrets and unlockables and all that stuff.
Yeah, like the idea of replay value, or just, additional content.
Yeah. It's almost expected at this point, the unlockables. The secrets, I mean, people have been hiding stuff in cold code for things like that since
since video games were a thing.
Right. I
Mhm.
mean, they're originally there for debuggers, so they can go right to the part that they need to test where they are at without
Yeah.
having to play the entire game for. If you want to test
Yeah.
this level with this type of gun, let me just load that scenario up instead of having to actually
Mhm.
play that level up. And Doom really just sort of technically just really opening. They leave the toolkit that the debuggers are using in the
Yep.
game. But I think it's Doom, and you can double check on this one, that puts the parlance of the term God mode into video games. The idea of God.
That might be true. Which I think is actually kind of funny because Bethesda puts that into all of their all of their RPGs.
Well, they know
all the console cheats. Yeah, well, Bethesda now owns it. But the all of the all of the Elder Scrolls games, all of the Fallout games, all have the same cheat codes, and it's just mods through the console.
Yeah, a lot of games for their infinite everything immortality thing, especially on PC, is
It's called God mode.
Where consoles owe a lot of debt to Konami code, kind of opens up everything on your console gaming. On your PCs, it's more of this text-based cheat coding environment.
I think it's DOS.
It might be.
Sorry.
So let's now return. So because we're coming back to Doom, this is not the last time you've heard from this.
We're definitely coming back to this.
We're returning to Doom a few more times, so don't worry about that. But we have
also, if anybody wants to buy the Dooms and also play them, they're like $5 on Steam right now.
Oh.
Yeah, and it takes nothing for your computer to run it.
Well, there's
you might be able to get it on your phone.
Does Doom run its subreddit? And they do test things like what can it run on phones, can it run on calculators? Well, there's an entire subreddit. If I can find it.
I don't think you can do it on calculator, but you can definitely do it on a cell phone.
I've seen it on a calculator, one of those.
You have
the big scientific calculators.
Yeah.
I'll try to get the link in the show notes.
Yes, please.
So let's now return to the world of Critical Role. Well, the universe of Critical Role, the world of Exandria on the continent of Wildmount, where we find one Amma, who's been looking for archaeological sites.
It's been my goal since I received the book, I believe it was last week, to go through and kind of identify places for potential adventures, because who does not want to do at least a one-shot with this book? One that I've seen so far on my friend list, on my Twitter feed, was I've got a friend who's doing a TravelerCon group that are making their way to TravelerCon. And so far the adventures sound like a lot of fun. But since we are Archeo RPG, I was specifically looking for archaeology-related or archaeology-adjacent adventures. Granted, I have not made my way entirely through the book, but I've got a few scenarios that we can very easily consume the entire time remaining with discussing. So
potential spoilers. Ooh.
Yes, that's another important point. Is I think from here on out. Yep. From here on out, I think we're going to be discussing stuff that if you do not want to be spoiled by either the content in the book, or if you haven't made your way up to the more recent episodes of Critical Role Campaign 2, I would say maybe shy away from this discussion. Are you guys up to date on Critical Role?
I am.
I'm still in the last episode. I'm trying to make it stretch out as long as possible. Until they can come back.
Fair enough. So I guess I want to start with what is the obvious, which was the first thing I flipped through the book and kind of looked for, was Shattengrad, which is the archaeological site that has been mentioned repeatedly in game. And I was not surprised to find the section to be incredibly small. It was about a paragraph long. And if you look at the book and the way the book is structured, some of the sections will talk about, population, government, defense, commerce, organizations. And then at the very end, it'll provide you with some kind of adventure out. And for the most part, Shattengrod contains relatively nothing other than describing it as a sinkhole littered with ancient bones. And basically a hole that covers the ruins of a city from the Age of Arcanum, which, if you're not familiar with the history of Exandria, you have the founding, which is kind of the God's Age, the Age of Arcanum, which is the arcane lore, and this is where you get the one gentleman who's trapped in the Happy Fun Ball. That's his time period, if you know who I'm talking about. Yes. Halas, I believe his name is. Halas is from that. Halas. Yeah, and then you have the Great Calamity, and everything in game is considered post-calamity. So Shattengrod is basically the ruins of the city from that Age of Arcanum time period. And so there's an ongoing excavation, and that's really all we have at the moment in terms of the lore in the book and the lore from the show. And I think they're holding off on giving more because I think that's going to be a place where they visit. But that doesn't mean that we can't necessarily make a one-shot off of that. Yeah. I'll leave that open for, what do you guys think about the idea of exploring an archaeological excavation run by two different kind of powers within Exandria?
100% into it. You and I have talked about this not on stream a little bit, a couple of times. But I am so interested in this concept, and I would love to see how aware Matt is of his use, because I brought this up the first time we talked about it, but his use of nationalist archaeology and if he's actually drawing from real world references. I want them to so bad go to this site, because I guarantee he wrote something there, because that seems to be the type of thing that he would do. But for us doing a one shot, that would be like, I think this is a potential scenario that we've kind of talked about a scenario like this before, where we are a CRM team and we're hired to go in and find a thing or explore an area or whatever and document ruins or whatever. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity to do that, especially if they provide us with any kind of backdrop or setting to do this in.
I think there are a few options within. Again, this is me picking meat off the bones here. But one, the area is not only filled with quote unquote broken relics and forgotten secrets, but also enduring shades and hungry entities. So it sounds a bit like a dungeon crawl in a way. So you can still have that adventure if that's what a team wants, but you can implement aspects of archaeology in there. And one of the other interesting things that you brought up was, again, Matt's potential understanding of nationalist archaeology. He does write that the Nodwalian Empire is kind of pushed forward despite these evils floating around by the quote-unquote promise of beneficial discoveries. So
it's not quite nationalism so much as it is looking for some sort of ancient power.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But at the same token, if it's something that, because this campaign is so war-driven, that I think it can be woven into that narrative. At the end of the day, if what they find helps the state, then I could see that still being pulled into this idea of nationalist archaeology.
For sure.
Bill, do you want to weigh in at all? You've been a little quiet over there.
Oh, no, I've been talking a lot to show. So, but I mean, the way to look at this one would be, if you want to be a purist, you kind of have to wait till Matt goes there and fills everything out. A way you could still do it as a purist would be to have a team go there with the intention of doing an excavation and then getting attacked and trying to get their way out of something, and never quite actually finding anything, a standard phase 1. You go, you look for something, you can't find anything, and you get out of the field with your life.
Yeah.
Or
before you're eaten by the cows.
Or you take a true homebrew effect to it, and
World ended.
Yeah.
You just go for it.
That's true.
You just make up what you need. I mean, you can be as true or not true to the spirit and theme of the overall book, and just take it to where you think it would be. If it's going to be the little, another little ball, is the thing that they're looking for. That could be the prize on there. You go to the back of the book and use it. One of the remnants. Could be one of the thing you're going for. It doesn't have to be a whole vast array of things. It could be just a single object. He gives plenty of objects.
Yeah,
in the
that's
book.
true. There is the arm of the betrayers, which is what I was going to bring up. So you have the betrayer guards, and they have quote unquote forged sentient weapons, which sounds a little bit like the Adventure Zone to me in a way. But you've got several weapons that the Calamity flung them across Wildmount, so that could be something that could be integrated there.
That was the thing that was also in the first series.
Okay.
And Grog's Cursed Sword. I think was potentially one of them, because that was also attached. That was related in some way to what's the one-eyed the bad guy at the very the last bad guy, the god. Vecna. Yeah. So that was related in some way to Vecna, but I can't remember exactly what. It was supposed to be, I think, Cass's sword, or they were alluding that it was Cass's sword or Kaz.
So I haven't made my way through campaign 1. I'm sorry.
No! Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Spoilers.
We already discussed spoilers, and I already have seen way too much on the internet, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't.
I just can't contribute.
I don't think I gave anything away there. They allude to it pretty quickly.
Okay.
So that is a thing that they kind of have alluded to in the first campaign, and I think Matt is trying to actually tie it in and codify it in here, which I think is cool. But if we get hired to map certain levels of the dungeon and look for evidence of a specific thing. So this could be kind of a phase 1 situation where one of the objectives is like mapping the levels of the dungeon, and then also we are looking for clues to find a particular artifact or regarding a specific person or something like that.
I like that. No, that's
mechanically,
good.
I mean, if it's going for a one-shot, you're looking for like a one-time 2 to 4 hour sort of adventure. So you have to keep it that small. So a very preliminary, a very cursory type of thing would be it. If you're looking to do sort of an exploration, that's closer to almost a campaign, a sort of like 10 session type of environment with possibly a multi-level dungeon, maybe with a big bad as an end boss in that, and so forth like that. You could build a bigger thing out of something like that. That's sort of a story arc if you're going to do an ongoing campaign.
Now, if you don't want to necessarily go for Shattengraden, like Bill said, wait until canonically they reach that point for it to flesh out. There are a few other places that have been fleshed out so far that do provide a few other mentions of both archaeology as well as opportunities within, for one shot. So along the Menagerie Coast, which is in the southern part, I believe, of Wildmount, which is where Ford and I believe who else? Jester.
Nicodramus.
Yeah.
I cannot do that.
What is that?
That was my attempt at a Jester accent. All right.
You went real Austrian there for a second.
I was close to
Schwarzenegger.
So, no, the Menagerie Coast actually surprised me. I was not expecting to find anything there. And within the history of the region, you have the indigenous Kinau, which I believe we've discussed before, who were followers of Uk'otoa. And you I was expecting that. And then you have... What?
Kinau? I don't know if I've talked to you about
It
it.
is KI'Nau. And they were visited by, I guess you're going to call them colonialists from Marquette, I believe, which is another continent or possibly island south of Wildmount that has been mentioned. And they ended up building an independent colony and merging with the Kinau eventually. Like it was actually really a positive reception and built upon trade. And they eventually declared independence from Marquette. But there were some conflicts between the Marquesians and the Kinau. Within Marquette, there is a cult to Zahir, which is one of the betrayer gods, who is actually the god who, would you say, beget Uk'otoa, or is like who kind of Uk'otoa is a lesser god of Zahir, basically. And they weren't too happy. The cult wasn't too happy with the Kinau following Uk'otoa. So this is where it ties all in. So with the aid of a powerful cult leader within an archaeological guild known as the Legion of Allsight, a series of temples built to Uk'otoa were corrupted by Zahir's influences to seal Uk'otoa. Does that sound familiar at all?
Wait, hold on.
So the temple that they went to where Ford collected the one eye,
right,
that was one of those temples that was actually built originally for Uk'otoa, but was corrupted by this cult of Zahir from the early Marquesians when they moved.
Yuatong? The half snake people.
Yes, that is. Those are the Yuan-Ti, I believe.
Yuan-Ti, sorry. And so that takes a lot of reference from a Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, so so you have that as another setting that has been already fleshed out. They've already been through the temple, so it could be used as basically a guide to making another temple. Although the team could potentially go to those too, or you could go visit that temple that's already been visited. So
all right. So what and is that the only mention of this archaeological guild?
That's it for right now. I have not heard them mentioned again, but it immediately caught my attention. I was like,
what was the name of that again?
The Archaeological Guild, the Archaeological Guild, the Archaeological Guild.
The Allegiance of Allsight, which was they are not a cult to Zahir, but they happen to have a powerful cult leader within the Archaeological Guild.
Okay. Allegiance of Allsight.
Okay. If I find more mentions of it in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmont, I will let you know, but that is the only mention so far I've seen it. I have not actually gotten to the Menagerie Coach section yet within the book.
I'm excited about it already.
What kind of campaigns could you see? Because I know I threw out a couple ideas, but
so are we talking about a campaign here, or one shot, or what are we?
I think we can explore all the possibilities, although I've been focusing on one shot. So
I think there's definitely a possibility of either through the being hired through or working or a group from either the what's the Ayun cult that Bo is a part of, the Cobalt Reserve?
The Cobalt Reserve, yeah.
So either the Cobalt Reserve or the Allegiance of Allsight going to do some sort of data collection on something. So I think there's a possibility, at least with the was it Stalingrad? Not Stalingrad. That's
a different campaign entirely.
Say that again one more time.
That's a different campaign entirely. Oh,
Stalingrad. Okay. We go and explore a gulag. No, I think there's a possibility of like going and like mapping parts of that, but that would be a lot of whoever is running that campaign would have to spend a lot of time making maps. Because I do not believe those maps exist yet. I'm sure someone is working on them somewhere.
It's called Theater of the Mind.
Not if you're actually mapping it, though.
Well, the other thing that pretends the
players.
The other possibility is also, they just went through the temple and caused it a lot of damage. So an assessment as well of the temple could also be another kind of archaeological adjacent.
Or like finding additional temples, or
I think for a one shot, an assessment sounds, well, I mean, I guess either one would work, but I like the idea of an assessment because it gives you a confined space, gives you a small space to work in, and mayhem can ensue. So there's not
you could also have recent signs of the Battle of the Mighty Nine integrated into the maps as well.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. So like parts of the map are flooded or just destroyed.
Why are there dicks everywhere?
I keep finding these tiny dick statues just all over the place. I wonder what it could possibly be. Must be a ritual.
When in doubt, it's ritual.
All right. Let me jump over to the Grain Wildlands, which this was another one I was a little surprised by. So the Grain Wildlands, there are 2 points that the campaign has already touched upon, one being Uthadorn, which is that kind of underground city where the elves and the dwarves live together in kind of those rings of different levels. I believe that is where they encountered the one guest character whose name...
Rini.
Yes, Rini. Yeah. So there's that area. And then there's also the Savalier Woods, which is the home of Caduceus Clay. And I did not know this, but so within the Grain Wildlands, it was basically an area that was destroyed during the Calamity. But there was this city, this kind of oasis of sorts, which I'm really hoping I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Molismere, which was this area of druidic rebirth, and it was an elven sanctuary. So while originally the elves were the only ones in Uthadorn, you had the elves situated in Molismere. However, interestingly enough, about 500 years after the Calamity, you have this corruption that takes place throughout the city. It starts from somewhere within, and it drives all the elves out, and they seek sanctuary in Uthadorn. And so this city of Molismere becomes what's known as the Savalier Woods. And what's written about that is that a small excavation parties are often sent to the Savalier Woods to search the ruins, attempting to piece together what caused this corruption and to see if the forest can be recovered. However, there is, if you do flip to the book to the part that describes it in a little bit more detail, there is an adventure associated with that, I believe, that talks about these many factions throughout the Grain Wildlands that have their eyes on the ancient city, eager to uncover its quote-unquote treasures. So now we have other areas associated with the Mighty Nine party members, but also places they've been. And again, these ruins upon ruins, these layers, so to speak. This would be more of a more recent ruin than, say, something that would be from the Calamity.
Right. But it also sounds like it's one that actually has an adventure attached to it, so that's always good.
Yeah. This one, I think, has the most potential for a one shot, if anything.
So the scenario would be just going in and trying to find the source of the corruption?
It could be that. It could be inadvertent that, there are multiple factions involved, and maybe, dealing with factions, and through the factions you find out about something in the ruins. Or it could be an excavation party that's sent in trying to find a specific piece of information. not everything. You're not trying to uncover the entire story, but maybe one piece of it. So that way you can kind of compartmentalize, and it doesn't necessarily deal with huge story arcs or bits of information, but is a bit more compartmentalized, if that makes sense.
I thought, yeah.
And then once oh, go ahead.
No, you go. I had a half-formed thought.
I was going to say, you get that layer of adventure and archaeology as well, where, because you're dealing with factions, there could be fighting. But at the same time, you can also, again, do an assessment. You can do recovery. There's a lot of things. You could be managing a collection and be looking for another specific piece to kind of fill out more information from said collections if you're based in Uthadorn.
No, that one sounds like it's got potential. So who's going to DM that one?
I wonder. All right, finally, I'm going to go technically. Okay, so I'm trying to keep this quick, but there's two more I really want to touch upon, and they're less developed, but I think, again, they also have potential. One other place that's actually really big, and it's kind of talked about, but there's so many different layers to it, is Roshana itself, which is built upon the ruins of Gordranus, which was, I believe, an Age of Arcanum city. It's like one of the sites of the end of the Calamity, basically. And that's the Kryn dynasty basically built its center upon that. But it's also surrounded by the Ghostlands, which I don't know if you guys remember, the team had to travel through it. And it's just this huge wrecked area filled with ruins.
And those creepy monsters.
Yes. I don't know. There's something about it that really caught my attention. And I think it's really captivating. So if you wanted to focus more on the Kryn or on the Calamity itself, it has this very kind of Breath of the Wild quality to it, if you ask me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, all these have potential. Like, we get the one shot out of the way, then it's an entire campaign in this world.
That's true. And I think it's scarier to dive into things that the campaign hasn't fleshed out yet as well, too, in any great detail.
Well, I think that's where one shot will help you get over that hump, shake that off, and then what you do is like what we do with any of these things. You grab the book. It's now your book. You get to rewrite the book however you want to.
Yeah. So and I don't know if you guys just got to see the his he and Marisha did a fireside chat, and he's actually talking about how he left big chunks of it vague on purpose, partially for the story, and partially to allow players to kind of write their own bits in. So I don't think I don't know if he's got like an actual map in mind for Shottengrad, but that would be. I'm still curious to see if they ever actually make it out there, because if they do make it out there, you'll have to make a map. I have a sneaking suspicion they're never gonna get to the archaeology.
No, I think they're gonna go. I honestly think that's logically the next step. To be perfectly frank,
it's to try to figure out where these things are coming from.
They know we're watching. He's intentionally teasing us every few weeks. Matt, I know you're at home watching me right now. You just finished your game of telephone earlier today, and you're like, how can we tease these archaeologists again? What can I do? All right, I'm on to your games.
May I add a correction, though, that I believe the next step is actually Traveler Con, and then maybe archaeology.
Yeah, Traveler Con has to happen first.
Now, I do want to mention really quickly, because the one thing that was new for me and is actually new in the game as well, which also provides potential, is Draconia. There is some lore about Draconia in the book, and there's a couple adventures. So the Dragonborn really haven't been featured very heavily, although they have had like one or two mentions throughout this current campaign.
Which makes it interesting, because in campaign 1, Dragonborn and Draconia,
spoilers.
are mentioned frequently. They are definitely a part of the first one, but Draconia is always seen as a far away place where something happened.
Yeah. Yes. This fills it out a lot and ties it to the first campaign. So this would be a great location for people who really want that. So Draconia is established as a city or an area of Dragonborn, where the Chroma Conclave, which is an organization of chromatic dragons, I believe, originally established power.
That's a story arc in campaign 1.
Yeah, and they bring that in. They also talk about an ancient white dragon who happens to show up and decimate the whole area.
Yep.
And so you have basically at this point in game, the Dragonborn are recovering from this destruction that took place 20 years ago, and that you still have these quote unquote profane relics that this ancient white dragon accumulated that feature in some suggested mid-level games. Actually, there's one epic level game that features these relics and a Death Knight. So there are opportunities with Draconia as well. I just, again, because I feel like it isn't fleshed out in campaign 2. I mean, I guess campaign 1 does that, but I haven't watched that.
They're definitely
yet.
Not going to touch this. I mean, I would be surprised if they head over here.
Yeah.
Since they sort of that's part of, unless that they do want to make the tie-in between the two campaigns, and then we finally will find out who's on the Tal'Dorei Council.
Well, I mean, the other thing though is
They're
that
all
because
dead now.
because this ancient white dragon was collecting quote unquote profane relics, I'm wondering if one of them isn't one of the arms of the betrayer gods. So that could also be something where in campaign they do eventually go. Or again, if you want to tie in something to that, there's possibility there. So there are options with it, but it's something I would need to do a little bit more research. But we've talked about Shattengrod, we've talked about the Menagerie Coast, the Grain Wildlands, we talked about Roshana, and then Draconia. Of those 5 that we've talked about, which one captures your interest the most? Outside the obvious bias of Shattengrod. Talking from the perspective of a one-shot.
From the one-shot, I think the Grainlands.
Yeah. So, like, we found this ruin out there, and we need you to go retrieve this thing from there, or something like that.
Something simple, a very like level 1 type of mission. Like, hey, there's.
I don't know if the Grain Wildlands are a level 1 area.
I know that, but I mean, it's that type of mission. It's a fetch quest type of thing.
Yeah.
Until things
very
go
concise.
Until things go wrong. Dun dun dun. You know, it doesn't. You know, one shots don't have to be complicated.
Can we just like kill rats or something for?
I mean, we don't.
You want a dungeon crawl?
Jeez, but that's your. I mean, for Shattengrad though, you're getting into like Mad Mines, where the Maze of the Mad Mage, or what's the Waterdeep one? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, a lot of layers, a lot of.
Yeah, just real deep, a lot of layers, a lot of basically an indefinite dungeon crawl, because you can just keep adding more levels.
Well, you guys have given me good feedback, so I think I'm gonna focus in on those Grain Wildlands.
Actually, I think for a level 1 quest, going and assessing one of the temples.
It doesn't have to be level 1.
That's true. It doesn't. So maybe the Grain Wildlands are the way to go. Very spooky.
But if I focus on that as a one-shot, I feel like if we go back to the temple of Uk'otoa and we do an assessment, that's something where I'd really want to take time to research both the temple itself based on Matt's maps, but also the adventure, to kind of understand how that impacted the temple and how I would have that affect the maps as well. So I feel like that's something that would need a little bit more time to flesh out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, because it would probably be best to do it sometime after they have passed through here, but before whatever final conclusion is going to occur to the world.
Yeah.
Just in case they
Yes.
blow up the world, we want to be like, no, we're before that.
Post calamity.
The second
Yes.
electric boogaloo.
All right. Well,
Calamity harder.
we've gone a little long tonight, but you know we had 3 good topics. That's why.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll trim it a little
And some
more.
tech errors.
Constant tech
Not
errors.
errors,
and we
issues.
call it
Not that bad. We got them sorted out pretty quickly.
We did. Thanks to Bill.
Yeah, good job, Bill.
Well, at this point now, I think this is the only thing I have running on my computer. I've turned everything else off. So with that, I actually don't have my script up for the end of the show. So, once again, thank you.
You can do it.
Still digging. We will be. That was a weird little zoom right there. We will hopefully have a cleaner update, cleaner cut of this show on YouTube. Well, you're watching YouTube right now, but down a few days from now, hopefully have a cleaner cut up. If you have any questions, you can follow us at ArcheoRPG on any of those platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We're all there. You can also email us at archeorpg@gmail.com. I don't have my list up, so we can't do the plugs. Tom is with Archaeology in the City. They're always looking for help. They're always looking for money because they're trying to help kids. I know help is a little harder now since there's no. You're not in person. But doing work is still
right.
There.
So we were able to finish out our Young Archaeologist Club through online meetings, and the kids seem to love it. Dr. Alex Jones is now doing a story time series on Saturday mornings. If you are a kid or know a kid, hopefully you're not a kid watching this. We use some adult language at times. But if you know children who like archaeology or want to get them interested in archaeology, we're reading kids' books at 11 a.m. on Saturdays Eastern Time. And you can go to archaeologyInCommunity.com to check that out. It's on the front page. There's a link right in the front page with details about it. But please, if you think what we're doing is cool and you would like to help us out, please feel free to donate, even if it's just a little bit. It helps out kids and teachers. So keep that in mind.
And Amma, you're doing a super secret project unless people actually watch your Twitch channel.
You say it like nobody watches my Twitch channel.
I'm saying
no,
everyone watches your Twitch channel, but for those few who don't.
Yes, I am starting up Art and Facts, which is hopefully going to be a live streaming session where I either work on an hourly comic project, which features a guest, and we talk about a day in archaeology for them. And my first guest was none other than Tom. Thank you very much. It was great having you.
That's a gift.
We actually hope to do a follow-up session with that as well, too. Totally ignoring and going on. And I'd also like to stream some art that's relevant to archaeology. I recently did a series of posts I still need to get to Tom about the father from Totoro who was an archaeologist, and I'd love to do a little art piece and talk about what I found when doing research about that.
Yes.
Cool.
And what times? 8 p.m.? 8 p.m. Wednesdays, I believe, was the...
Sure.
Yes.
Whatever.
And even though she's not here, Sarah is doing many videos on her Twitch and YouTube channel. It's the tea time mostly, around 3-ish. So we'll be streaming live on...
I'm in bed.
On Twitch, but then they get put on afterwards. She's reaction videos to things like the Unexplained and Unexplored, the America Unearthed rehash show, and if you watch the recaps, the reaction videos to the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, there's a very special guest on those shows.
Oh, is there?
Who could that be?
This guy. Always, every week, always in a secret location. Speaking of my own self-promotion, every Wednesday at noon, live, to make sure that Amma can definitely not see it. She'll be sound asleep. Sound asleep.
No.
I know, because it's developed now over its 5 weeks. It's Archeo Thoughts Talks, my weekly live talk show, where I talk to an archaeologist every week, and we discussed an important issue to them and into the world of archaeology. We've been mostly talking about archaeology and the current pandemic, but coming up next week, we're going to be talking about more of a broader issues in terms of things like decolonization, repatriation, and general racism, both within the field of archaeology and in the greater heritage community in general. So it's a light. That's where the light topics go. Is to archaeology.
Super light.
So that's that'll be on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/archaeothoughts. So with all the plugs out of the way, with telling you how to get a hold of us on Archeo RPG, I think there's nothing left to do but to say good night.
And
Good night.